Hello everyone, how's it going? Dr. Incompetent here, and let's do a complete beginner's guide here at the end of 2022 for Legend of Grimrock. Now this is an older game, it hasn't received any updates too recently, so nothing should affect you if you're playing this many years later or even in the future from this video. Now, what I want to do here is basically start up the game with a brand new game and walk you through the process of character creation, understanding the controls, the game mechanics, some strategies for staying alive, help show you what kind of a game this is to see maybe if you'd like it or just help you get off the ground with fundamentals. But that is the extent of it, in that I will not be spoiling any content, telling you how to min-max or showing you all of the secrets or how to shortcut to the boss or anything. This is meant to be a very immersive tutorial where I just start out. You can follow along, play with me, or just see if you are interested in this game. Legend of Grimrock is a cRPG that is a classic, like kind of retro look at first-person, party-based RPGs from an era of perhaps, the late 80s, early 90s. I'm thinking, some of the early Ultimas, Might and Magic, even the early Elder Scrolls, were in this perspective. And this takes that sentiment of the older games where you need mapping and you need to solve puzzles and such, but turns it on its head because it combines what you would expect with a grid and turn-based games with a real-time element, because the enemies move in real time, the battles happen in real time, so there is strategic positioning that requires timing and consideration, and all of that synergizes to make Grimrock a very unique experience. But as you see, or will see rather, it's not necessarily an RPG in the truest sense, where you're going to grind up and become stronger than the content. It's a very balanced game. It's almost more like a puzzle game in some ways than it is an RPG, because the loot is not randomized, with the exception of, consumables and things that enemies might drop. But, the loot that you get is always going to be in the same place, and it's strictly limited. And that will change the way that you approach the game. So we're going to look at what it takes to get into this game, because I think it's a fantastic game. I have a complete Let's Play of this game on the channel if you want to check that out, of me playing from the very beginning to the very end and beating the game. And I will put a link to that in the description below. Now, what we're going to do is just start a new game, all right? And I'm going to start on difficulty normal, because I think that, if you're playing for the first time, that just makes sense to go on the default level. It does, however, say that you cannot change your difficulty after you start. And you can go in old school mode, which turns off auto mapping. So this game is very throwback in that it, like wizardry or something, you need to make your own map. Now, the game will make a map for you, or you can do it on your own, with graph paper or whatever. But I don't recommend doing that personally. I like it's more like some of the modern games, the labyrinth-style games, where you still are mapping, but the game keeps track of the map for you. So, it's a convenience. I like it. So I'm not going to enable that. But if you want to, use pen and paper or whatever and do your own map, then click old school mode. Now, create characters lets you customize your own characters instead of playing with the predetermined party. Now, I'm going to tell you what. When I did my playthrough, I created my own characters. And if you want to do that, 100%, go for it. I'm going to just do it with the default party to kind of show you all elements of the game as, maybe you should play it on your first time, because I'm going to tell you something. I have made mistakes in this game where I've created almost winnable party combinations where I've had to restart. because this is not a game where you can, like, let's say, make 4 spellcasters and have success. The reason is you need tanks in the front to bear the brunt of the damage, and spellcasters just aren't great at dealing with that. And also, there is a limited loot pool. Like I said, the loot is fixed. So you're just not going to find enough equipment if you make like 4, rangers or something like that. 4 characters that want to shoot with bows. You're just not going to find enough bows or arrows to accommodate that. So you need to have a balanced character party. Now, that being said, it doesn't mean you can't, have 2 of the same class or do some kind of more unusual group. The more comfortable you are with the game, or the more kind of challenge you want, go for that. But the game does not make that easy. I want to tell you that so you don't waste a lot of time. Like, if you try to make... I tried 4 monks, 4 martial artists or whatever, and you end up in a situation where you have 2 people in the back row who can't do anything because they can't reach forward to the front row to attack, and they don't have enough skill with, throwing stuff or shooting things to do damage, and it's a nightmare. So maybe you can eventually get enough loot by grinding away very carefully to, sneak around and get the equipment you need to make that work, but I don't recommend putting yourself into a situation like that. So for the purposes of this, beginner's guide, I'm just going to go completely default and say apply. And here we go. Into Mount Grimrock. So again, I'm not going to spoil any of the lore or the story, but I will read this. A towering spire looms above the clouds, a weathered rock that has stood tall for ages, longer than the histories of men have been written. It is a desolate place now, only remembered when things need to be discarded and forgotten, like us. And press any key. An airship struggles to gain altitude as it floats toward the peak. And here we are. 4 prisoners bound by heavy chains emerge from the ship. The court accuses them of terrible treasonous deeds, but by the grace of the king, their crimes shall be forgiven atop Mount Grimrock. So this is kind of like their prison system. They just throw you down the pit. Their final trial is at hand. Numerous prisoners have received their pardons here, yet none have returned to live their life in freedom. They are at the very top of the world, and below them only darkness and justice awaits. Bam! As they are plunged down the open maw at the peak, their crimes are absolved. Everyone before them has perished in the guts of the mountain, but will you be able to lead them through the dark and to the freedom that awaits at the base of Mount Grimrock? Probably not. No, yes, you can. All it takes is being able to beat the game and the only people to ever escape from here alive, but let's go for it. So this is a very game that is light on story. First time playing Grimrock, a tutorial is available from the pause menu, accessible by pressing escape. And I recommend go ahead and do the tutorial, but I'm going to skip it and just kind of go into the game and explain in my own way how to play the game. All right? So you'll find more bits of the story as you go in, the form of letters and other things. I'm not going to spoil it, but just know that this is more a game about exploration, dungeon diving, puzzle solving, than it is about deep story or character interaction. In fact, there's pretty much none of that. So I only tell you that just so that you know what you're getting into and you can make a determination on whether or not you want to play this game. This game is really cheap, so it's great to pick up, and then you can play the second game if you want. All right. I'm going to walk around and just kind of map this out and look around. Now I'm going to push tab. Tab opens up the map. All right. So here we are on the map. This blue arrow is us, and the grid gets filled in for every tile that you walk on. So I am using I'm using WASD to move around. Q and E rotate you 90 degrees. Okay. You can also use the mouse to move if you set that, but I am not playing that way. And so just use WASD to kind of get around. And as you see here, I'm on the map. Okay, I do map the square that's in front of me that I can see. So I can go over here, and there's some bones. And now I'm in this little alcove here that you can see. Now, everything is dark, and there's this awesome light source ahead of us. Because this is a game like Shadowgate where you need to have a torch. You need to have light. And if you don't, it's very, very difficult to get around and really see things. Now, we're going to walk up here, and I have completely mapped in this first area. So I'm going to walk over here, and anytime you see this writing on the wall, you can left-click on it, and it says, choose your fate, perish in this cell, or pick up the torch. And this is kind of an indicator to you that we are beginning a puzzle game. So you can click on things in the view screen here in your field of vision that are close to you and pick them up. Whether they're on the ground and you want to pick them up, or they're in a torch sconce, you can click on this again to put the torch back, and you'll notice that the gate does not close. It opened when we took the torch, but we can keep it. Now, I'm going to give it to one of my characters right here to use. So I'm just going to put it in this guy's hand, and we now have a torch, and when we walk around, now the world is illuminated. So when I say this guy, let's take a look at our party. Who did we get? We started with the default party. I'm going to click on this guy. His name is Kontar Stone Skull. Okay. And this is our paper doll. Here's the inventory below him. And you can see he has 65 out of 65 health. And when you mouse over things, if there is a tooltip that can pop up and give more explanation, it will. Energy is our ability to act. It governs magic, but also your skills. Protection is kind of like my armor class, and it mitigates physical damage coming in. Evasion is our ability to dodge. Here's how much experience we have, and here's how much we need to get to the next level. You'll notice that there is an attack power for my left hand, and an accuracy, and an attack power over here as well for my hand and my accuracy. Now, of course, these hands are flipped based on, how this thing is looking at us, but I'm just saying left because it's, left here. So, do with that what you will. And you'll notice that the stats are pretty minimal on this screen. It's just health, okay, which is obviously your hit points. Energy, which is kind of like your stamina or just the ability that you use to do spells or combat techniques. Your armor class or protection, your ability to dodge or your evasion, and then how many hit points you have. Now, you have a satiety bar, okay, which is extremely important. There's a survival component to this game, meaning that you're going to need to eat food and collect it. And there is an encumbrance rating, all right? So you do not want to become overburdened because it will slow you down, all right? Now, if I am on the top tab of my backpack, but I can click on this next tab over here on the left of the upper right pop-out for my character to get more stats. So you'll see again, here's my health and energy, here's my experience, and here's my satiety and load. It says I'm a human fighter, I'm level 1, so this is my race or my species, and this is my class, I'm a fighter. Then it tells me my strength, my dex, vitality, willpower, okay? So these are the kind of like D&D type stats that have been condensed into 4. And then it tells you your resists to fire, cold, poison, and shock. And then if you have any traits, they are listed here. And our traits are that we're skilled, so we get 3 extra skill points, and we're athletic, which means that we get strength +2. Now that's already been applied. All right, you can see what your stats do again by mousing over them and reading the tooltip. For example, strength, it says it's my physical prowess and my strength, and it increases our attack power and our carrying capacity. All right, you'll also see that we have dexterity, which is our accuracy, evasion. All right, and now down here, you'll see I have skills. Now, the game, when you do preset, it's already spent your skills. If you make your own characters, you get to kind of distribute your abilities a bit. You get to pick. You could have all Minotaurs if you want, or whatever. You get to pick your background and your class for all of your characters. So that happens if you create but when you select the pre-made party, it comes in for you. And honestly, it's nice because they give you a really strong and balanced party. We're going to take a look at it. We have 2 points in athletics, okay? And this is how the game works with skills. So you're going to get skill points every time you level up, or if you get items that you might find that raise your skill points. And it'll tell you, okay, it represents time spent in exercising your physique. And if you put points here, it'll increase your physical ability scores, but it tells you at what threshold you need to have points in this category to receive a benefit. So because we have 2 points in athletics, for example, you'll notice that on this athletics pop-up that has appeared to the left of my regular skill screen, at 2 points in athletics, I get strength +1. And then it shows you grayed out at what increasing threshold levels you need to unlock, for example, vitality +2, which happens at athletics level 5. So you could kind of game plan here, and this is important, actually, because your skill points are limited. Like I said, this isn't an RPG where you can just grind up like Final Fantasy to level 99 and just be maxed out for the most part. You need to really carefully choose because there aren't enough skill points to go around. You can't just get max and everything. All right, so you need to make choices that are meaningful here. And the game kind of has directed us to focus on athletics, armors, and swords, for example. All right, so armors give us protection +1 at +1 here, and it improves the effectiveness of equipped armor and your character's defense. All right, so if we go 5 points into armor, we get 10 health points. And then the really important thing about armor is that you'll see that at level 8, level 16, all right, at these points, then you don't get any penalties from wearing light and heavy armor. And so you want your characters who are tanky that want to wear heavier armor to have this. So armor skill is extremely important. And axes and maces are just different weapon types, okay? And you're going to find different axes and maces, of course. And so you can go into this if you want, but the game has kind of guided us down the sword path. You'll see if we actually put 1 more point into swords when we level up, we'll get strength +1. You can also go unarmed combat if you want to bat people, you know, with your bare hands. And I always enjoy doing that. And it's cool because you don't have to find any equipment. So this is how they've distributed our skills, all right? And this is Kantar. So he's our human fighter. We have no equipment. You start with nothing. Your prisoners just kicked in here. You start with nothing. You know nothing, and you're trying to make sense of this and maybe survive. All right, let's go click on our next guy. I'm just going to left-click on the portrait to do that. You can also use the number keys, 1, 2, 3, 4, to kind of switch between your people. You can push escape to close this up. You can push 1 to open it back up, or click on the portrait with the right-click. Now, left-clicking on this, oh, it also works. Okay, never mind. It didn't work for a second. All right, now, let's look at Mork. Mork, you can see, has a bajillion hit points. And it's because he is also a fighter, but he's a Minotaur. And so Minotaurs are like super strong, but they're not quite as fast, and they don't have the same kind of willpower. Now let's see what skills we got with our Minotaur. They gave us points into maces. Now notice how we only have 1. And that is because if I go over to my traits, I'm tough, which gives me the extra hit points, and I have Headhunter, which is a unique trait for Minotaurs. Every time you find a skull in the game, and there are not that many, but you get stronger every time you find one, he just gets +3 attack power for every skull carried. It's such a funny thing. It's like, you know, your battle trophy. So anytime you see a skull, pick it up and put it in Mork's inventory, and his attack power will increase. All right? So he's a little bit stronger and has more health. So he's kind of our crusher, but the trade-off is that you know, he doesn't have as many skill points. So, for example, Kantar just has 7 skill points. Now, I think humans just get more skill points than Minotaurs, but our stats are a little bit, you know, distributed differently. So, you know, pros and cons to each background type. Now let's go ahead and push 3, and we're going to look at our rogue, okay? Our rogue is here. Her name is Yenneca Whitefeather. And you can see she's very balanced with health and energy. She has no protection but high evasion. And her strength is low, but she's very dexterous. She has skilled, again, she's also a human, and she's agile, which gives her dexterity +2. She has put points into daggers, dodging, missile weapons, and throwing weapons, okay? So she's more like spread out, and you can focus on what you want. Now, daggers are fantastic, all right? But we're going to talk about that in a moment. Dodging is important for her. Missile weapons and throwing weapons are what are key. And why is that key? Well, let's take a break talking about the characters for just 1 second and explain about the party. So this game, you can think about it as each square is like a 10 by 10 or a 5 by 5. 10 by 10 makes more sense, though, because of how the configuration works. So let's say these are 10 by 10 squares. I just kind of made that up. And your first 2 characters are in the front of your party, and you're in 2 by 2 formation. So what direction you're facing, our 2 fighters are in the front of our party on the square right here, and our rogue and our buddy Sanksaron the mage is in the back in the right. So there's here, 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 and here. Now that's important for a couple of reasons. Number one, if there are enemies that are facing us, they are much more likely to hit the people in the front. If enemies come from behind us, they're going to hit the people from behind. And if they come on our flanks, they will hit the people who are on the flanks. So in general, in Grimrock, you want to have your tanks facing the combat, and you don't want to have anyone behind you or on your flanks because your people in the back are really, really squishy, and you don't want them to die. So you need the tanks up front to cover that. The other reason the positioning is important is if you have like a dagger or a weapon that is short range, you can't attack with it from the back row because you can't, it's not long enough. Now, a spear, polearms, those do attack from the back row because they're long. But what you can do in the back is either sling spells, or you can go ahead and throw something or shoot something. Missile weapon, throwing weapon. So your positioning is important for what skills you can use, what weapons you can attack with, and where the incoming damage is hitting. Now, if the enemy is shooting stuff, well, then people in the back can be hit. And if they are slinging spells, AoE things, everybody's going to get hit. But for the most part, your tanks are going to try to take the brunt of the damage if they can. Now, it doesn't always work. There really isn't a taunt or anything. You're just taunting by position. But that's a very important for you to know in terms of party composition, which is why you don't want 4 mages, because they have to stand up front. And if they can't wear heavy armor and they're getting hit, they're just going to die. All right? So we have a good party because we have 2 big beefy tanks up front. We have a rogue, and let's take a look at our other dude here, Sanksaron, okay? And he has a bunch of energy, so he can cast his spells. And you'll see here that he is all about willpower, which helps us manipulate arcane powers. It gives us energy every time we level up. He has a bunch of resist fire because he has strong mind, which gives him willpower +2, and demon ancestor, which gives him +5 fire resistance. So that's helpful. Now, if you'll look at his skills, mages have skills, and everybody has different skills based on their class, by the way. So, like, the fighters have the same skills because they're both fighters, but the rogue has assassination, and then daggers, dodge, missile, and throwing weapons, whereas, you know, the fighters have athletics, armor, axes, maces, swords, unarmed combat, and then our buddy here has the 4 schools of magic: air, earth, fire, ice, spellcraft, which is just your general ability to use spells, and then staff defense. So again, you can't really be everything in this game, so you want to kind of focus on maybe 1 or 2 schools of magic. And oh my god, look at what's happening. I told you, it's real time. Our torch is burning out. So, quick power tip. I'm going to put that torch on the wall. Okay, so a torch on the wall is helpful because it will never burn out. But the game, time is passing, right, as I'm talking. And my characters are getting hungry and my torch is burning out. So let me pause the game. so I can discuss some things with you, but I can't really look at the UI while the game is moving. So that's unfortunate, but that's Grimrock, baby. Time is passing. Remember, it looks like a turn-based game because of the presentation and because you move one square at a time, but it is real time. So it's a mashup. So we need to learn that right up front. And my torch was just burning away. All right. So that's a pain, but we'll get more torches. No problem. Now, you want to focus on maybe 1 or 2 schools of magic because you just don't have enough skill points to go around. Okay. Now, like I said, all of our skills are set. Now, if I right click, okay, on my spellcaster's hand, what happens is a little window appears covering his portrait that has these glyphs, and this is how you cast spells. And you don't know any spells up front. You have to find the scrolls that have the spells to learn how to cast a spell. You will learn them over time. If you want, you can look them up and kind of cheat and learn spells up front, but even if you know the configuration of a spell, rune-wise, you can't cast it unless you have the appropriate magic skill level to do so. So, you know, you can sort of get ahead by learning them if you want. I don't recommend it. I think it's more fun to kind of learn them as you pick it up, but you are also free to just experiment and see if you can cast a spell. Like, so if I, for example, like click all of these and then I click cast, it just says your spell fizzled, and it took some energy to do that. So you can like try and cast stuff by clicking around if you want, but you'll learn them as you go. So we have no weapons, we need some food, and we're going to move on. All right? Now, I'm going to just pause the game for a moment so we can look at the wall. One of the coolest things about Legend of Grimrock is that there are secrets everywhere. Not a ton. I'm not going to say there's like a million of them, but there's so many secrets in this game that I always look at every wall, because what you can find on a wall would be a hidden button. They're pretty easy to spot once you know what to look for, but you want to scour every wall because finding secrets can be the difference between getting your party strong enough and getting owned. So you can like really, really help make yourself more powerful by finding secrets. And a lot of the time, it's not even a secret. It's like a necessary puzzle or a switch that you have to flip to even make progress. So I'm looking around at the wall, and there isn't anything right now that jumps out at me, but we'll notice there might be a little button that appears that you can see that you can click on, but we don't see that yet. But I just get into the practice of kind of looking at every single wall in this game, trying to find a secret. Here's a torch that we can take if we want. I am going to take it and put it here. Now, this torch back here, I'm just going to play move the torch. Your torch can burn out permanently if it's in your inventory. You can never relight torches. That's not a thing that you can do. The game is meant to kind of put you on a clock in terms of food and torches so that you can't just while away indefinitely to give a sense of urgency. Now, when you get here, these chains, you can click on them to open the door. All right, and the door will open, providing there's no other lock in place. So you need to move quickly, and again, everything is moving as we're going around, and I'm looking around. Our map is getting filled in, and here's some clothing. It's on the ground. By the way, you can hold right-click and use the mouse to kind of look around if you want, you know, and just really see, oh, what's on the ground. You can click on this and give it to your guy, and click on this and give it to your guy over here. Now this gives you protection +2. You click on it from your inventory with left click, and you'll notice that the area on your paper doll where you can equip this kind of glows yellow with a transparency, and we can put it on. And now you'll see our protection. It goes from 1 to 3. Now the reason I gave these pants, which also give protection +2 to the Minotaur, was because both of these characters are getting hit, so I kind of want to distribute the protection when my resources are limited so that they're like one guy isn't strong and the other guy just dies. Now we have found a weapon. Now, this door is closed. Sometimes, just be careful, there are traps in this game. All right? So look down on the ground, make sure you aren't stepping on a pressure plate. They're very, very clearly marked. So we'll look at them when we get there. But also, sometimes if you take something from one of these little alcoves, it can be the end of our life. But, like, it can set off a trap, okay? Now, let's look at our skills, okay? And you'll notice that nobody is trained in axes, and we found an axe first, okay? And yet this isn't an axe. It's a cudgel. So look very closely. Look like an axe or a tomahawk to me, but no, it's a mace. So I'm actually going to give it to Minotaur because the Minotaur is better with maces. So I'm going to put it in his hand, and you can see its attack power 12, but its accuracy is -5. So notice that the tooltip dynamically updates when showing your accuracy and weapon damage, and boom. When attacking with my mace, I am attack of 19, accuracy -7. Now, how do you attack in this game? By right-clicking rather, on your hand. So, again, I'm going to pause the game just to talk about this. This is a really wild game. It is turn-based only in appearance. It's real-time. And so I right-click on my character's action in either my right or left hand, whether that's a spell I want to cast or a bow I want to shoot, or a weapon I want to use. And then when they use it, they attack, and then you'll notice they become grayed out because this is showing you how long they are on cooldown before they can attack again, right? And so this guy's on cooldown for quite a while, and it's because of the speed of the weapon, all right? So it's speed 10. I'm going to flip this switch. Okay, so we see a switch here, and it opens the gate. So now we've seen pull chains to open gates or switches that we can use. All right, I'm going to look around, and I'm going to look around. This kind of chain doesn't do anything, but you can always click just to see if there is something you can do. Push tab, look at the map. We filled it in. We're doing well. By the way, speaking of the map, if you want, as it says here, you can left click, all right, and put a note. This is extremely helpful. I can say, found cudgel here, you know, where we got the cudgel. I can say, you know, left a torch here. Whatever notes I want to leave to myself. And then it appears on the map as an N. I mouse over it, and this appears. You can remove the note by just right-clicking on it, and it's gone. All right? And so this is super helpful for you to just leave notes for yourself. You're going to want to do this all the time, okay? Now, by the way, just as I'm talking about a lot of things, you'll see my torch is at full brightness. The picture on the torch will diminish the flame to show you that your torch is burning out, and also the radius of light that you emit will reduce to reflect your diminished torch, okay? So just a heads up. Now, this is a pressure plate that you can see on the floor in front of us. I told you they were very clear. I'm going to pick up this rock. Now, you can always left-click on something, by the way, and when you're holding it with your mouse, you can see I can move this around, and I can just drop it back by clicking again, but I could also just carry it over here and drop it over here if I want. So think about this as like carrying it, but you can also give it to this guy, put it in his hand, or put it in her hand, or whatever you want to do with an item, okay? Now, watch this. I'm just going to put it in her hand for now. I'm going to let it go. If I step on this pressure plate, you can see that the gate opens, all right? And I'm going to look for secrets. I'm going to find none. But if I step off, you can see that the gate closes. I can take this rock and set it on the pressure plate, and now the door opens. All it needs is something to open it, okay? So any item that you have that's extra, you can put it there to open that, okay? And as long as something is pushing that pressure plate, it'll open. It could be anything. It could be a piece of paper, all right? But you need to put something there. Okay, I'm going to just switch torches because this is a great trick that you can do to preserve the integrity of a torch. As long as it's in the sconce, it will never burn out. But if it's in your hand, it will, okay? All right, and we go over here, and we found a key. I'm just going to give it to our first guy. And we found a brass key. You can right-click, and it says brass key in our inventory. Great. And I'm just looking around for any secrets. I'm not seeing anything right now. You'll get really fast at this, but feel free. Now, I do want to just help you by clarifying. There will never be a secret like up on the ceiling, okay? So you really only need to look at the wall right in front of you. They won't be on the pillars or anything like that. They will just be on the wall kind of in your middle section, and you'll see them. But That is how they will be. They really won't be on the floor at all either, except for pressure plates or items that are on the floor to pick up, but no like switches or anything. Buttons on the floor. All right, so that should save you some time. Here's a stone. Now, stones are actually quite valuable because you can throw them. So if I give this to her, if I right-click on the stone in her inventory, she's going to throw it, and it will sail and hit the wall and drop down. And now that I had used that stone before, when you walk over it, she will automatically pick it up and equip it back in the slot where she had it. So that's a very useful feature for recovering your items. The reason I want to explain that is because that thrown equipment and arrows that you shoot are limited. They will never mulch, like break upon impact or anything like that, but they can be lost if you forget where they are, or if you like throw it down a pit that you can't get to. You can lose them, but usually you can get them back. So you want to keep track of all of them because they're extremely valuable. So having a rock is actually really good. So it might be worth my while to push tab and open up the map and say, hey, you know, I left a rock here, because I might want to go back and get that rock to give her more weapons to throw when I have something that I can drop that I don't care about. All right? Right now, everything I need. And I'm looking around for secrets. I find none. Everything is mapped in. And here's a keyhole. So I'm going to click on my dude here, and I'm just going to pick up the key with left click, and then you just click it on the key hole, and you open the door. And we've opened it, and we're going to walk through, and I'm just going to push tab. Now, there's some writing over here, and there's a door. It's locked, and here's a key. So very clearly we need a key to get through here, and we don't have any more. Once you use the key, it's gone. All right, so that key has been consumed upon use. All right, and this says Loose Rock. And this is the game giving us our first secret. So I'm going to walk up here, and I'm just going to give you a moment to kind of look at the screen before I show you where it is. This is how you'll detect secrets in this game. So if you have been looking at the wall in front of me, maybe you have noticed, you can pause if you want to really look and find it yourself, that there is a cut right here on this rock, and this is a little bit loose. It's a button. If I click on that, it opens up a secret wall. All right? And you can click on it again if you want to close it, but just don't click it again to open it. So this is what secrets will kind of look like. Now, there might be other variations of this, but usually in Legend of Grimrock, when you find one kind of wall pattern, there will only be one or two different kinds of like hidden buttons on there. So just look in this place for future secrets, and you're going to be better. But usually look kind of in the whole middle section, but that's all it is, and you just left click on it. You can try taking the torch. It doesn't do anything. I'm going to go over here and pick up this iron key, and I'm going to give it to my dude. And I'm going to look around for secrets. I'm going to find nothing. And here's something that you can do. I'm going to pick up this torch, and I'm going to put it in my inventory. Torches also will not burn out when they're in your inventory. And I can even use this to attack with, and it will improve my attack power, actually. So I'm going to switch to this torch and use this as a weapon with my front guy, because he's got nothing. And I'm also going to say that you can sandbag torches, just keep them in your inventory if your main torch burns out. So if you feel like, I'm never going to go back to this area of the map, it's a dead end, I can take the torch freely, and I don't care about leaving it there to illuminate that corridor. So usually it's in your best interest to collect torches as you go. So I'm going to take this torch as well and put it in his inventory to distribute the weight, because torches do have a bit of weight associated with them. All right? So now what we want to do is actually start picking up our torches, but you can also leave them behind once weight becomes an issue. Just keep them in a sconce or throw them on the ground, and they will not burn out. Just as a tip, by the way, if I take this torch and I throw it on the ground, you see how dark it gets? I have no torch. You can still sort of see, and you can definitely see where another light is coming from. But if I pick this up off the ground and put it back, it's lit. Even though it's not lit on the ground, it becomes lit again. So just a heads up on that. Now I'm going to use this iron key and just left click to pick it up, and then left click the keyhole, and I can use it, and I'm in. And we're going to go over here and look around. Now, I'm going to spy over here, spy over here. I'm going to pick up this torch, just like I talked about, and put it in my inventory. And we're looking for secrets. And we found our first enemy. It's a snail. Look at him over here. Okay? So he looks like he's going to chill right there. All right? And I'm just going to make sure there's nobody behind me. But eventually, this guy might move. Snails are like the easiest enemy that you're ever going to find in the game. But they could still kill you if you aren't behaving appropriately. So I'm going to throw a rock at this guy by right-clicking. And you can see now he's going to, like, come at me. He's angry. I'm going to hit him with my torch and try to hit him with my mace. Now, this is Legend of Grimrock. Watch me. I am moving around. I am strafing with Q and E, okay? And I'm moving around so that I can hit this guy. And then while my characters are on cooldown, while my front characters cannot attack, I'm just running away from this guy so that I'm not standing there. I'm going to attack with both of my guys, and I'm going to attack and move. And if you time this right, like while this guy is turning corners, check this out, you can kind of like stick and move so that he can't even hit you. It just takes a little bit of a feel to get when you can actually hit this dude and when you can't. And to get the timing down and to make sure you don't back yourself into a corner on the map. That is Legend of Grimrock. Now, he dropped some food. I'm going to pick it up and put it in my pack. All right, let me talk to you about that. So I had to kind of do that on the fly because, again, it's real time. But that is the battle system. You are going to be, if possible, running away and attacking when your abilities are on cooldown and trying to prevent the enemy from even getting a hit on you. It's easiest with snails because they're slow. They don't have any ranged attack. You can see, though, that guy had a lot of hit points. He stood there and just took the damage. But you want to make sure everything, all the enemies are cleared out so you have a clear track. You want to kind of look in advance, plan out your route, and just practice walking backwards, all right? You can use Q and E to kind of turn if you need to, but you also just are going to be using A and D to strafe, move around like this, kind of, you know, practice your running around combat to get yourself in a strategic position where you can hit and not be hit. You can get everybody off of cooldown. You can even run away if you have a bunch of ranged attacks and shoot far away. So that's kind of how the battle system works. And it starts out pretty easy, but it can get diabolical. And if you're running and you accidentally back yourself into a corner or you back yourself into another group of enemies, you're probably going to wipe. And speaking of wiping, let's push F5 to save the game. Save this game. I pushed F5 to quick save it and save it often because it is hard and your characters can die very, very easily. Now, I'm going to go back to where I was, okay? This is Loose Rock, and if you get lost, just push tab. Here's the map. You see how the walls get filled in if it's a solid wall with a dark brown line. That means it's an edge. All right? Where there is nothing filled in and there are no squares, that is where I haven't yet been. So let's kind of go back, and that is not the right way. Let's go the right way. And we're going to go over here, and it says Loose Rock again. And we're going to go back here. And we're going to look around. And that's where I took a torch, okay? So we're going to go here. Now, when I look left, this is where the snail was. Now, you'll notice that this is locked. There's a switch here. But I didn't want to open that until I took care of that snail. I'm going to go back into this corner. Now, watch this. I'm going to pick up my rock. Very important. Now she can do something. Notice how my people in the back can do nothing right now because I don't know any spells and I don't have very many ranged items. Now, I find some boots and I find some pants and I found a knife. Okay, I'm going to go right-click. So, here's what I want to show you. I'm going to put these pants on my front guy, and I'm going to give the boots to the Minotaur. Again, I'm distributing my protection. His protection is 6 with this shirt and with these pants, all right? And I'm not going to eat anything. Never eat anything in this game until your food level is super, super low, because you don't want to overeat, and food is actually limited. Now, I will say, I think the game will generate enough snails for you to get food. All right. So, like, eventually, I think there's places where you can go back and fight snails to get food, but I'm not sure on that. I know you can in Legend of Grimrock 2, but I can't remember if there's infinite food places in this game. But I will say that, like, there's enough food in the game to go around. Don't worry about it. But you do want to kind of move at a reasonable pace to keep your torches and your food in check, especially at the beginning. Now, another thing I want to say about that combat that I didn't talk about yet is that in yellow numbers, I got 60 experience for killing that guy. And if I look at my character, you'll notice I have 60 experience. That number is for everybody who is alive, okay? So everybody who is alive got experience. Now, what happened to my dude here? He didn't get any experience, and why did he only get half experience? Well, I'm pretty sure we're going to find out, but I think that may be because he didn't do anything. And so because he didn't act in combat or do any damage, I think he may have only gotten half experience, but I'm not entirely sure about that. We're going to look at that in a moment. So now, let me go back. I explained experience, and I'm going to put these boots on my dude, and now both front guys have 6 protection. Now, this knife, I'm going to give it to her because she's skilled with daggers, okay? But I'm going to show you why this isn't that great. Now, let's make sure that there's no secrets. Check every single wall. Look for secrets. Take torches off, by the way. That puzzle from the very beginning of the game, that can be repeated. You might find another place where a torch actually controls a secret door. I'm going to walk over here. I'm going to push F5 to save the game. I'm going to open this door. And I'm going to look around. I'm looking for secrets on every wall. Okay, so there's something over here, and we find some throwing knives. I'm going to give this to the wizard. He's terrible at that, but at least it can let him maybe get full experience. And let's just do a little experiment to see if that's the case for why he only got half experience. I'm going to kind of look over here, and there's a snail. We're going to throw a rock, and I'm going to throw a knife. And we hit with both, all right? So watch this. I'm going to try to hit. And you'll notice that when I tried to attack right there, okay, with the knife, it said can't reach. And that is because you can't reach with a knife from the back row. At least not right now. So, we got it. We killed it. Now let's see if the other snail is following. All right, we got our throwing knife back, but not our rock. Our rock is over here. So I'm going to throw the knife. And I'm going to try to attack, so at least see if she can get full experience for that. And again, I'm just kind of walking back around. And you can always check your map by pushing tab, but notice that time passes even while you're looking at your map, all right? So just be careful. You'll see that this guy has a little pattern, like he has to kind of slither up before he can hit you, and you can hit him while he's kind of transitioning from one square to the next, and punch him in the face so that he can't hit you. Now this door is locked with a key. I'm just going to walk around. I'm mapping this out to make sure there's no enemies, all right? Because I don't want to just get hit by like random dude who's standing around. And I'm also checking, looking for secrets. At the beginning of the game, they're pretty obvious where they are, but you still want to just do your best to look for them because they are just so nice to find. And we found a loincloth, all right? We found some shoes, and we found another rock. I'm going to put it here. You can see it stacks. The number in the upper right corner is indicating how many I have in that stack, and that's great. All right, I'm going to go into this guy. I'm going to actually switch out his torch just so that it stays reasonably lit. Now, you'll notice that both people in front have pants, so I can give her the loincloth. But wait a minute. This says willpower -1, attack power +1. All right, makes you dumb to use it, and that's okay. I don't mind, all right? Now, sandals. Do both people in the front have shoes? No. So I'm going to give these sandals to my dude up here. You can just kind of pick up something and drop it onto somebody's portrait to put it in their inventory. I'm going to put this on him. And so now he's got sandals. She's wearing a loincloth. And you don't want to give that to your wizard if at all possible because willpower is so important for him. And we're going to walk around here and just take a gander. I'm going to pick up this torch and put it in my bag. All right, I'm going to push F5 to save the game. And there's a doorway here with a chain. I could open it, but I always like to just map out the open hallway before I do anything else. I'm going to look around. Look around. Secrets? No, but yes, another rock. So now we're up to 3 rocks, and we found some food. Now, here's something that you really don't have to do, but I want to do. I'm going to go all the way back from where I'm at on the map to this place with the rock, okay? I forgot to pick up this snail meat. Let's pick it up. I'm just going to look at the map to make sure I don't get lost. There's no mini-map in this game, by the way. Just got to know. Just got to use your map with the main map to figure this out. All right? I'm going to go back to the rock. Now, instead of putting the rock here, I'm going to put this pit root bread here. I'm just going to drop it and put it right there and pick up the rock. Right now, the rock is actually more important to me. So I'm going to say, instead of left a rock here, left pit root bread here. All right? So now I know that there's some food here if I'm starving. But now we have 4 rocks that we can throw, and we have 1 knife that we can throw. And so this means we have a little bit more we can do with our back row for the time being. It's kind of ridiculous when you start out, but you're naked and afraid when you begin. You're these prisoners who got thrown down here. You don't have much. So we're just trying to work up to getting anything. You will have more options as you go and you find stuff, obviously. But you want to just do the best you can with what you have early on. All right, and I'm going to go around here. And did we map this out entirely? We did. Now, were there any secrets? Always check, especially at dead ends. You know what I mean? Like, that's a huge place to look. Okay, so time to open this up. I'm going to push F5 and save it. You can always close it, by the way. Like, if an enemy's coming and he looks too hard, you can close it. They can't open it. So you can, like, lock them behind there if you need to. All right, now, I'm looking, and there's writing. And this is a new kind of puzzle. It says, to close the pit, something needs to fly. Now, all this means is you need to throw anything. It can be the rocks, it can be the knife, whatever it is. Now, let me explain this puzzle to you. This pit, it's a pit trap. This is another thing you want to watch out for on the ground. If you see a pit, don't walk into it. You will take a whole bunch of damage, and you will end up on the floor below. Okay? So don't do it unless sometimes later in the game it's the only way to actually progress further, but right now, don't do it. What you want to do is throw something. Remember, you just right-click it from your inventory, or your hands, rather, on the bottom right display. And she throws it, and it goes over here on this pressure plate, and it locks up the pit. We get the key, and I'm going to get it. Now, unfortunately, we have to leave this rock here, because if you try to pick up this rock and step off the plate, as soon as you get off the plate, it will disengage, and then this will open up and you will fall in the pit. So unfortunately, we have to kind of leave that right here. But as I said, I actually want this rock, so I'm going to pick it up, and I'm going to put a piece of torch. I'm going to put a torch down, you know, and just go to my map. I'm on this square. I'm going to click and just say left a torch on pressure plate here. So I know, like, if I need a torch, there's one here, okay? And now I have all my rocks, and we can open up this door. I'm going to right-click, I'm going to go here and do this. What do we see? I'm going to push F5. We see a face. All right, whenever you see this demon face, be careful. We're going to look around, look around. All right, and these kinds of demon faces are always something to pay attention to. They're either going to shoot something out of their mouth at you, or they're part of a puzzle where you need to put something in their eyeballs or in their mouth or something, but they're not ever just decorative. They always do something, okay? So just be wary of them. Look out for pressure plates or things like that that might make them shoot something at you. But in this case, this guy's not shooting at us. It just says, heal my sight. And that's a puzzle. And I'm spoiling all the puzzles on this level. I won't do it for the rest of the game, of course. I'm not going to show you the rest of the game in this guide. I'm just telling you kind of how to understand. Heal my sight is an oblique reference to put something in my eyeballs, and you will get puzzle things to do that. I show you this because this game has lots of riddles and puzzles like this, but everything can be solved with what's at hand. Sometimes it might not be that obvious. This game is so old, everything is easily wiki or Googled to solve it if you want, but it's fun to just do it on your own if you wish, okay? Now, I'm going to go to the right, and I'm going to take a look. Again, just check every wall, looking at it. If the wall is covered with roots like this, it'll never have a secret. And there's a bad guy. You can kind of see him, and this is a new kind of bad guy. This is like Mushroom Guy. Now, he's waiting right here. You see how this is a grate? You cannot throw something through this, okay? And you cannot attack through this. So nothing bad can happen to us right here, but this guy is ready to go, and he is much more difficult, and there's a guy waiting on deck than before. So I might want to wait on this. Now, I'm going to show you one thing that you can do with these grates, though. I can pick up my stone, okay? And I'm going to go into my inventory, and I'm just going to put here, and I'm going to shift-click the stones to break apart the stack, and I'm going to just pick up a stone, and I'll put it right down here. Oh, no, not this one. Sometimes it'll let you put something through that. In this case, it's not going to. I don't know if it's because that guy's standing there, but if you want to fight, open this up. But I don't want to fight just yet. I want to see if I can get my people anything stronger before we have to do that. So I'm going to walk over to this side and look around, see if we can find anything. There's a lever, and there's snails in the pit. This looks better. If I pull the lever, it closes the pit. Now, here's what you got to be careful of. It is very probable that these pressure plates will open or close this, and the enemies can interact with these. So if the snail, like, walks on it, he might open this up and drop us down it. You see another snail is coming, but he moved on by. Now, you can always kind of, like, pull this if you want to open this up. You can use it on the snail if you really want, but I'm not going to. I'm just going to throw something at this snail to get its attention, and he's going to then come over here. I'm going to swing. I'm going to swing. I'm going to throw. And I'm going to swing. Swing, throw. Critical hit. Heck yeah. Swing. Swing, miss. That's so bad. The accuracy on that big mace is just awful. Sometimes the enemies will do this. They will take a while to, like, commit to which direction they want to go, but this is usually the best place to fight them, is in an open 4x4 grid. You can, if there's no other enemies, you can usually dance around like this indefinitely. So before I was in corridors, but when you get a more open area like this, it's not, they don't happen all the time, but when they do, they're great because you can just kind of strafe around on this 4x4 and take care of business. I guess when I say 4x4, I mean 2x2. It just seems like 4x4 because your party is, there's 4 people on each. Anyway, 2x2. All right, our torch is taking damage, going down. You can see that. So I'm going to actually switch it right here. Give me this one. Bam. By the way, it doesn't matter if you use your right or left hand to attack with. You're equal. Oh my gosh, there's somebody coming. How did you get here, you turkey? I don't know, but he came. And we're going to have fun just breaking this guy down. Oh my, he's trying to get us. I got a little bit greedy there on my timing. Now, generally, you probably want to attack first with this when you're dancing around because it's slower, but it's fine for now. Now I'm going to go over here and pick up my rock, and I'm going to pick up my other rock. I'm just going to make sure there's no other snails waiting for us on the wings. All right, I look over here. I look over here. I'm not looking for secrets. Now I am, but I wasn't before because I just want to make sure there's no enemies. That's more important than a secret to me right now. And boom. Oh, this is a big one. What do we get? Scroll of Fireburst. So look at this. Now I see Scroll of Fireburst. You mouse over this, and it tells you that if you use this rune, you can cast your fire spell. So I'm going to show you how that works. I'm going to just click the rune, and then I click this kind of blue, magic spell button on the left, and I just used Fireburst, and it says, discovered a new spell, Fireburst. And if I go into my skills, you'll see that on Fire Magic, you need 2 points of skill in Fire Magic to use spell Fire Burst. For the level 3 spell, you'll look at the skills for your magic. You'll notice that they are question marks because you don't know what spell it is until you find the scroll, okay? Now, you can look at your dude, and you can click on this, okay? And let's see. Yep, so I have this, but maybe it's I think it's Legend of Grimrock 2 I'm thinking of, where you can see your spells more easily. Yeah, okay. So I have Fire Burst, and it's memorized, but you need to have this scroll to remember. It says at the bottom, required skill, Fire Magic 2. But now I know. Now here's a pro tip for using a spell. You can have this preloaded. So I can just have this up. You can't see your health in red or your energy in blue or your character's portrait or anything if you have this screen up. But what it means is I can more quickly cast spells. Everything is timed. So you're going to be like frantically jamming over here to like attack when it's on cooldown, cast spells, enter the runes and everything like that. And that is part of the game. All right. Another rock. I'm going to pick that up and be glad about it. I'm going to check this room thoroughly for secrets. And looks like we found a cloak. Okay, I'm going to give it to this guy. A cloak is an item that goes in another slot, and it gives evasion, usually. And that one does, and that's fine. All right, I'm going to go over here. And again, I'm going to continue to give armor to my first 2 slots. And we have this item here, and it's another loincloth. Okay, so I'm actually not going to use this loincloth. I'm just going to pick it up for right now, because I don't want to give it to my spellcaster, because I don't want to diminish his willpower. Now, I'm going to walk around. Fire Burst only works on the tile in front of you. It is not a ranged attack. It just goes in the tile in front of you. So if I stand on this, you'll see that this opens up. But if he stands on it, it closes. All right? Kind of a hilarious sequence. So we're going to need to maybe figure out how to get this guy away from this. In the meantime, all right, I'm going to use this scroll of Fire Burst to open this up. All right? I'm going to throw this at him. And he's going to close it, unfortunately. But at some point, he'll go ahead and open this for us. It's funny. Okay. When he moves away. You can use anything to weigh these down, like I was saying, right? Now when he walks on it, it should open it. Oh no, I have to do it again. All right. Constarn it. Let's take this. Okay. All right. Now notice that I threw something and it puts everything on cooldown. I'm going to use my fire spell, and I'm not running like I normally would because I don't want this to close, right? Now, another thing to notice is, using my fire spell, you won't pick up stuff that's on a pressure plate because they don't want you to accidentally trigger it, so you don't auto pick up things that are on a pressure plate, okay? Now, in here, we got the blue gem. And a blue gem, what could that be for? It's something for a puzzle, right? So I told you, you find the items for the puzzles around if you do enough exploring, all right? Now I'm going to pick up everything on this that I can, all right? And it stays open. If I step on it, it's going to close, but then you can just... Wait a minute, I'm stuck forever. How do I get out? Secret, right here. Maybe you saw that before, but it opens it up. And you're like, wait a minute, this secret is bogus. It kind of is, but what you want to do is just put a torch right here, and then click this, it'll open, and you won't trigger it. Now, you can then pick up your torch and put it in your inventory and walk to this tile, and you're out. And now we have the blue gem, and we need to go to the other side and fight those mushroom guys. And we will get into fighting those mushroom guys in the next episode. Everyone, I think this is a good place to end the first episode of this complete beginner's guide. I might do more if you want, but I really think this is a great introduction to the game. We've learned spellcasting, combat, encumbrance, the real-time aspect, positioning, dancing enemies around, puzzles, riddles, switches, pit traps, mapping, notes. We've done a whole bunch of stuff with this game. If you want to see more of this guide, please let me know in the comments below. I'd be happy to continue it and finish some more and show you some more of the game's content if you like. Thank you so much for watching. Also, if you have any questions about the game, if you're curious about anything, let me know in the comments below, and I would love to help you out. Everyone, again, have a wonderful day. Thanks for watching. Take care.